Imagine that every experience in your life, whether joyful or painful, has a deep purpose. What if I told you that according to Buddhism nothing happens by chance? Stay with us and discover how this ancient philosophy teaches us that everything has a reason. Join us on this journey of self-discovery and find inner peace by understanding that everything happens for a reason. The law of impermanence, understanding constant change. The law of impermanence, understanding constant change. Nothing in life is permanent. Everything changes: the seasons, our emotions, relationships, even our own body. In Buddhism, this principle is called anicca, impermanence, and it is one of the fundamental truths of existence. Suffering arises when we resist this reality. We want happy moments to last forever and for difficulties to vanish immediately, but life is a constant flow. The key is not in holding on or resisting, but in learning to accept each stage with calmness. Think of nature. A river doesn't stop or cling to any one form, it flows without resistance. A tree sheds its leaves in autumn, but it doesn't suffer from it. It knows that spring will bring new ones. We too can learn to let go of what no longer serves us, trusting that every change leads us to a new phase of growth. Accepting impermanence frees us. It allows us to enjoy the present without fear of losing it, and to face challenges with the certainty that they too will pass. If everything is in constant transformation, every difficult moment is just another phase in the journey, not a final destination. True peace doesn't lie in avoiding change, but in flowing with it. When we stop fighting reality and learn to live with detachment, we discover a tranquility that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Music, cause and effect. Karma in our daily cause and effect, karma in our daily lives. Nothing in life happens by chance. Every action, thought, and word we express generates a consequence, even though sometimes we don't immediately notice it. This is the essence of karma, one of Buddhism's most fundamental teachings. It's not about punishment or divine reward, it's a natural law. Just like gravity, everything we do creates energy that sooner or later returns to us in some form. Imagine you throw a stone into a lake. The ripples generated expand in all directions, altering the surface of the water. Similarly, our actions create ripples in our lives and in the lives of others. Some effects are immediate, while others may take years to manifest, but one thing is certain: everything we do leaves a mark. Karma is not only about what we do, but also what we think and feel. If someone lives filled with hatred and resentment, even if they don't act outwardly, that energy continues to affect them and shape their reality. In contrast, someone who cultivates compassion and patience, even in the face of difficulties, creates an atmosphere of peace around them. The quality of our lives is determined by the quality of our actions and thoughts. Sometimes we see people who seem to do wrong without facing immediate consequences, while others do good and suffer injustice. This can seem contradictory, but Buddhism explains that karma doesn't always manifest right away. It's like planting a seed. Some germinate quickly while others take longer to bear fruit. The important thing is to understand that everything we do has an effect, even if we don't see it right away. Karma also teaches us about personal responsibility. Often we blame others or circumstances for what happens to us, but if we look deeper, we can see how our own actions have contributed to our current situation. This doesn't mean punishing ourselves or feeling guilty, but recognizing that we have the power to change our lives by changing our actions and thoughts. In Buddhism, there is a story that illustrates this clearly. A disciple asked his teacher why some people are born into poverty and others into wealth, why some seem lucky and others do not. The teacher responded with an analogy: if you plant apple seeds, you will get apples. If you plant thorns, you will get thorns. Each life is the result of countless past actions, and our current decisions are planting the seeds of our future. Karma doesn't mean resignation or fatalism. We are not trapped in an unchangeable fate, but we can transform our reality with every choice we make. If we've created suffering for ourselves or others in the past, we always have the opportunity to change, to act with more wisdom and compassion. There are three main ways to generate karma: through thought, word, and action. Each of these aspects impacts our life and the world. A thought of hatred may seem insignificant, but if we nourish it, it can turn into hurtful words and eventually harmful actions. On the other hand, a thought of love and gratitude can transform the way we speak and act, creating harmony around us. The practice of mindfulness helps us to become more aware of our karma in daily life. If we observe our actions and thoughts honestly, we can notice patterns that lead us to repeat situations of suffering or happiness. For example, if we always react with anger to problems, we create a tense environment around us, attracting more conflict. In contrast, if we respond with calm and understanding, we break that cycle and create a more peaceful reality. It's also important to remember that karma not only affects our personal lives, but it also has a collective impact. The decisions we make influence our family, our community, and even the world. If we cultivate values like generosity and empathy, we not only improve our own lives, but we also contribute to a more harmonious environment for everyone. One essential aspect of karma is intention. It's not the same to help someone for personal gain as it is to do So from the heart, even if the external action is the same, the energy we generate is different. That's why Buddhism emphasizes the importance of the motivation behind every act. Throughout our lives we've accumulated many experiences and habits that influence who we are. However, the past doesn't define us. Each day is a new opportunity to plant good seeds. It doesn't matter how many times we've made mistakes, we can always start anew. If we want to transform our karma, we can begin with small changes. Being kinder in our words, acting with honesty, helping those around us without expecting anything in return. These gestures may seem simple, but they have a profound impact. Just as a drop of water can create ripples in a lake, every small positive action we take contributes to a greater change. Karma reminds us that we are the creators of our lives. It doesn't mean we can control everything, but we can choose how we respond to what happens to us. Every decision we make is an opportunity to move toward a fuller and more meaningful life. By understanding the law of cause and effect, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of fate and begin to take responsibility for our existence. This not only gives us more power over attachment and suffering, learning to let go our lives, but it also allows us to live with greater peace and confidence. Accepting karma helps us see every experience, even the difficult ones, as an opportunity to learn. Instead of asking why is this happening to me, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? With this mindset, every obstacle becomes a lesson that strengthens us and brings us closer to a greater understanding of life. In the end, everything we do comes back to us, not as a punishment nor as an arbitrary reward, but as the natural result of our choices. When we live with this awareness, we begin to act with more wisdom, creating a path of greater harmony and well-being. Attachment and suffering, learning to let go. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from attachment. We cling to people, things, emotions, and even ideas, believing they will bring us happiness, but nothing in life is permanent. When what we desire changes or disappears, we feel pain. The problem with attachment is that it makes us depend on the external. We believe that without a relationship, without a job, or without certain conditions, we cannot be happy. But when we base our peace on what we cannot control, suffering is inevitable. Letting go doesn't mean stopping loving or valuing, it means learning to enjoy without possession, to be present without demanding permanence. A love free from attachment doesn't seek to control or hold on, but flows with acceptance. When we stop clinging, we find a freedom we hadn't imagined. We realize that we can enjoy the present without fear of losing it, and live with more lightness without carrying the anxiety of wanting everything to remain the same. True peace arises when we learn to let go of what we cannot retain. Accepting that life changes frees us from suffering and allows us to live with greater fullness. The wisdom of acceptance, flowing with life. Life rarely follows the plan. The wisdom of acceptance, flowing with life. Imagine from a young age we are taught to fight for what we want, to strive to reach our goals, and to resist when things don't go as expected. But few teach us the importance of acceptance. In Buddhism, learning to accept life as it is without unnecessary resistance or struggle is one of the keys to finding inner peace. Acceptance doesn't mean settling or resigning. It doesn't mean giving up or surrendering to difficulties. Acceptance is a state of clarity in which we recognize reality as it is, without judgment or rejection. It's letting go of the need for things to be different so we can find peace with what already exists. Often we suffer not because of what happens to us, but because of how we resist it. If something doesn't go as we want, we get frustrated. If someone doesn't act as we expect, we get angry. If things change, we hold on to the past, but life continues its course with awe. Without our approval, resistance only creates suffering, while acceptance allows us to flow with more peace. Buddhism teaches us that everything that happens in our lives is part of a web of causes and conditions. Nothing happens for no reason, and although we may not always understand the reason immediately, every experience has something to teach us. Instead of fighting against the inevitable, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? A Zen master used to tell the story of a farmer who had a horse. One day the horse ran away. His neighbors came to console him, saying it was a great misfortune. The farmer, however, responded, "Who knows if this is good or bad?" Days later the horse returned, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors celebrated his good fortune, but the farmer said the same thing, "Who knows if this is good or bad?" Soon after, his son tried to tame one of the wild horses and fell, breaking his leg. Again the neighbors lamented his misfortune, but the farmer repeated, "Who knows if this is good or bad?" Weeks later the army came to the village to recruit young men for war, but left the farmer's son behind because of his injury. What seemed bad turned out to be good, and what seemed good might have been bad. Life is a constant flow, and only over time can we see the bigger picture. Accepting reality doesn't mean we shouldn't take action when necessary. If something causes us suffering and we can change it, we should. But if something is beyond our control, fighting against it will only bring more distress. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference between what we can change and what we must accept. The practice of acceptance is strengthened through meditation and Mindfulness: when we meditate, we learn to observe our thoughts without judging them or trying to change them. We realize that emotions come and go like clouds in the sky over time. This helps us accept life situations with more calmness. One of the greatest challenges is accepting others as they are. Often we suffer because we want to change people, for them to be more affectionate, to think like us, to act in a certain way, but each person is as they are with their own process and learning. When we stop trying to control others and accept them with their light and shadows, our relationships become more harmonious. Acceptance doesn't mean approving everything that happens. If someone treats us poorly, it doesn't mean we should tolerate it, but we can accept that person as they are without expecting them to change, so that we can be at peace instead of fighting against reality. We can decide how we want to respond to it. It's also important to learn to accept ourselves. Often we are our own harshest critics, punishing ourselves for our mistakes or wishing we were different, but self-compassion is key to well-being. Accepting ourselves doesn't mean we don't want to improve, but it means we stop fighting against ourselves and start treating ourselves with more kindness. Change is inevitable throughout our lives. We will experience losses, failures, and disappointments, but we will also find love, growth, and new opportunities. Life is a balance of difficult moments and happy ones. When we learn to accept both with the same serenity, we find peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. Accepting life as it is frees us from the burden of resistance. It allows us to let go of the weight of constant struggle and embrace each moment with gratitude. When we stop fighting with reality, we discover that happiness doesn't lie in having everything under control, but in flowing with what life presents to us. Every day is an opportunity to practice acceptance. We can start with small things: accepting traffic without frustration, accepting that it rains when we plan to go out, accepting that the people around us have their own timelines and processes. Over time, this practice prepares us to accept life's big changes with more wisdom and calm. True freedom is not in controlling the world, but in learning to flow with it. Acceptance gives us that freedom, allowing us to live with more lightness, confidence, and inner peace. Hidden lessons: finding meaning in hidden lessons, finding meaning in adversities. Throughout life we face difficult moments that seem to make no sense: losses, failures, illness, conflicts, and situations that challenge us. Each adversity carries with it a lesson, even though we may not see it immediately. When things don't go as we expected, we often react with resistance, anger, or sadness, but if we observe carefully, we can discover that even in the darkest moments there is a hidden teaching. Nothing in life is meaningless if we know how to transform suffering into wisdom. One of Buddhism's principles is that everything is interdependent. Nothing happens in isolation. Everything is the result of a series of causes and conditions. Many times what we see as an obstacle is, in fact, a necessary step in our growth. What hurts us today might be preparing the way for something better. A Buddhist story tells of a disciple who found a caterpillar struggling to get out of its cocoon. Seeing its effort, he decided to help by opening the cocoon with his hands. However, the butterfly that emerged could not fly. Its wings hadn't fully developed because the effort to break out of the cocoon was what strengthened them. In the same way, our difficulties help us develop the qualities we need to move forward in life. Suffering can be a teacher if we are willing to listen to it. It forces us to look within, to question, and to grow. It shows us our weaknesses and gives us the opportunity to turn them into strengths. Every challenge we face offers us the choice to remain in pain or use it as fuel for transformation. In life we don't always get what we want, but we always get what we need to evolve. A relationship that ends may teach us the value of independence. A professional failure may show us it's time to redirect our path. A health issue may remind us of the importance of taking care of our body and mind. Nothing is in vain if we are open to learning. Many times only with time can we see the purpose behind a difficulty. Something that seemed like a misfortune at the time may turn out to be the best opportunity of our life. The important thing is not to stay trapped in complaints or despair, but to trust that everything has a reason, even if we don't yet understand it. Buddhism teaches us to see every experience as an opportunity for growth. Instead of cursing the storm, we can ask ourselves what it is teaching us. Is it showing us we need more patience? Is it helping us let go of control? Is it strengthening us for what's to come? The human mind tends to resist pain. We want to avoid it, ignore it, or eliminate it as quickly as possible, but pain, when faced with awareness, has the power to transform us. It's like fire that purifies gold, removing what's unnecessary to reveal its true essence. When something hurts us, we can see it as a sign that there is something we need to work on within ourselves. If a criticism affects us deeply, it may be an opportunity to strengthen our self-esteem. If a loss leaves us devastated, maybe it's time to learn to let go with love. Every difficult emotion shows us a part of ourselves that needs to be understood and healed. Accepting adversities doesn't mean surrendering to them. It means seeing them as teachers along our path. We can take every obstacle as a curse or as an opportunity to grow. The way we choose to interpret them defines our experience. A helpful exercise is to Write about the most difficult moments we faced and analyze what we have learned from them. We might discover that thanks to those challenges we developed more resilience, compassion, or wisdom. Even the most painful events can have a purpose if we look at them through the lens of learning. When we trust that everything has a reason, we face challenges with more calm and clarity. Instead of asking ourselves why me, we can ask what for. This simple shift in perspective changes our relationship with suffering and allows us to grow instead of staying trapped in pain. Life's lessons are not always easy, but they are always valuable. Every experience, no matter how difficult, is preparing us for something greater. When we learn to see challenges as opportunities, we stop fearing them and start embracing them as part of our evolutionary process. Nothing is by chance. Every difficult moment is a doorway to a new understanding. We just need the courage to cross it. The practice of mindfulness, living in the present. The human mind tends to wander. The practice of mindfulness, living in the present. Between the past and the future, we remember what was with nostalgia or regret, and we project what will be with anxiety or expectations. Rarely are we fully present in the only moment that exists, the now. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness teaches us to anchor ourselves in the present, to live each moment with full awareness and without distractions. When we are caught up in thoughts about the past, we relive old wounds or cling to memories that no longer exist. When we worry about the future, we create imaginary scenarios that may or may not happen, generating unnecessary stress. But the present is the only real moment, the only space where we can act, feel, and experience life in its fullness. Mindfulness is not just a meditation practice, it's a way of living. It means being fully present in every action we take without being dragged into automatic thoughts. Eating mindfully means savoring each bite instead of eating hurriedly without noticing. Listening to someone with full presence means really paying attention without thinking about what we will say next. Walking mindfully is feeling each step, the contact with the ground, the breeze on the skin, instead of being lost in thoughts. Most of us live in a state of constant distraction. We check our phones while talking to someone, think about work while with family, review worries while eating. We are physically in one place, but our mind is elsewhere. This prevents us from enjoying life and increases our stress. The practice of mindfulness helps us regain our ability to be here and now. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a restless monkey, jumping from one thought to another without rest. Meditation is a way to train that monkey to calm down and learn to focus on the present. At first it can be difficult, but over time we become more aware of our thoughts and can choose where to direct our attention. A basic mindfulness exercise is to focus on the breath, observing how the air enters and leaves without trying to control it. Every time the mind wanders, we simply return to the breath. This simple act helps us return to the present and trains our ability to concentrate. Mindfulness doesn't mean we have to eliminate all our thoughts, but rather we learn to observe them without getting caught up in them. Imagine that your mind is a sky and your thoughts are clouds passing by. You don't need to hold on to any of them or try to make them disappear. You simply observe them and let them go. When we live with mindfulness, we discover that many of our worries are unnecessary. We realize that suffering arises when we are trapped in thoughts about the past or the future, but when we anchor ourselves in the present, we find peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Mindfulness also helps us respond instead of react. Many times we act impulsively, letting anger, fear, or frustration take over, but when we are present, we have the space to choose how we want to respond to each situation. Instead of reacting automatically, we can act with more calmness and clarity. In Buddhism, it is said that every moment is an opportunity to awaken. We don't need to wait for a retreat or a special situation to practice mindfulness. We can do it in every aspect of our daily life. When we wash our hands, drink a cup of tea, or listen to a bird song, life is happening right now, and every instant is valuable if we know how to appreciate it. Many people search for happiness as if it was something they will achieve in the future when they get a better job, find the perfect partner, or achieve a certain goal. But happiness is not in the future. It's in how we live the present. If we don't learn to be present now, we will always be chasing something that seems unattainable. Living with mindfulness helps us see the beauty in the everyday. It allows us to enjoy the small details we usually overlook. It connects us to our own existence in a deeper way. It doesn't mean we won't have problems, but it gives us the clarity to face them without getting trapped in mental drama. Every moment of our life is an opportunity to practice mindfulness. We can start with small things, breathing consciously for a few seconds when we wake up, listening with full presence to those around us, savoring every meal with gratitude. Over time, this practice becomes a habit that transforms our way of living. Mindfulness is not an abstract concept, it's a practical tool to find peace amidst the chaos. It reminds us that life is not in the past or the future, but here and now. And when we learn to live in the present, we discover that happiness is not something we have to chase, but something we can experience in this very moment. Transforming the mind from pain to enlightenment. Our mind can be our transforming the mind from pain to enlightenment. greatest ally or our biggest source of suffering. Buddhism teaches us that it's not what happens to us that causes us suffering, but how we interpret it. If we learn to observe our thoughts without being swept away by them, we can transform our lives. Most of the time we react automatically without realizing that we have the choice to respond to each situation. Through meditation and self-observation, we can train our mind to stop acting on impulse and start living with more clarity and serenity. It's not about eliminating suffering, but about understanding it. Every difficult emotion is an opportunity for growth. When we stop identifying with our fears and worries, we discover a freedom that doesn't depend on external circumstances. The path to enlightenment is not a distant destination, but a way of living in the present with awareness. By letting go of attachment to negative thoughts and cultivating inner peace, we can transform our mind and with it our reality. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the wisdom of Buddhism. We hope these teachings have helped you find a deeper understanding of life and a path to inner peace.